Our speaker today is Kelly Carter. Kelly is the Public Outreach and Engagement Unit Manager for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife Division. Kelly graduated from Michigan State University with a Master's in Human Dimensions of Fisheries and Wildlife. She has worked for the DNR since 2000, and she started her career as a wildlife training and safety coordinator, then switched gears in 2003 and became the Information and Education Coordinator. In 2009, the Public Outreach and Engagement Unit was formed, and she was hired to lead the team. She has been involved in stakeholder engagement for more than 15 years and has helped coordinate species management plans, strategic plans, and communication plans, all needing extensive stakeholder engagement, just like you. So please help me in welcoming Kelly.
All right, test one. Can we hear me fine? It's good? All right, great. So I am really excited to be here. Again, I am Kelly Carter, Kelly Siciliano Carter, if you hear the long name of it. I learned in graduate school that there's a lot of Kelly Carters in the world, so we'll keep the long Italian name in there as well, make it more complex. But I'm really excited to be here. I actually don't get the opportunity to do presentations like this very often because I'm usually involved in more of running my team or doing stakeholder engagement specifically. So I'm really excited to come and talk to you about some of this. I was asked to talk about DNR engagement, so I am with the Wildlife Division, so I'm going to talk about other things within the DNR as well, but I'm more comfortable talking more about Wildlife Division stuff. So my goal today is to not confuse you, number one, that you actually walk away pretty motivated to get involved in something, and to also throw a few other tidbits in. So I'm going to throw some fun photos in, I'm going to show you some, or give you some information about totally random things. Why not, right? And hopefully get you just a little bit more familiar with what the DNR has going on, okay? So it's going to be a little random, I'm just going to warn you now. So I'm going to start off with is that you might have seen outside there's a table of DNR stuff. Please take as much as you want, give it to your friends, etc. We're not going to bring any of it back. This is all the products my team works on. So I'm proud of their efforts, and a lot of it is about that connecting people with nature. Oh, see, there was that. She told me I would do that. But so that's just my plug. Please take this material. I'll talk a little bit about some of it. All right, starting back, I just want to give you a little bit of background about myself. Mentioned I'm a deeply bleed green girl, Michigan State University. I have a degree in English. I have a degree in fisheries and wildlife. Weird, right? Started off in English, went into a different career, and then just said, this isn't where my passion lies. Went back and did fisheries and wildlife, and then just loved it and said, I love communications. I'm going to continue and do human dimensions of fisheries and wildlife. And my parents don't know what that is still, right? So it's really about managing the people within fisheries and wildlife. It's not just about managing the critters, it's also about managing all of us and how do we get involved in the management of fish and wildlife. So I did that, but I grew up here, not far from here in Byron Center. Everybody familiar with that? So loved it. I got to enjoy the nature through that way, and my dad was someone who taught me fishing from when I was like 2 and just loved being outside, so I have that passion. All right, so a little background with me is just that I love nature, love to be here, so excited to be with the DNR, and let's get started. Well, if you were in Eric's talk, he talked a little bit already about citizen science. So I'm not going to talk as specific as Eric was about science in the sense of where we talk about those public participation voluntarily for scientific purposes. He really talked about how you can grab that science and use that either to help build databases or data information. We do some of that, but I'm going to give you a few other things that maybe you might want to get involved with, okay? So it's citizen science broadly, if you can think of it that way. So here's ways to help. I'm going to do these in kind of categories. There's ways that you can help through restoring and cleanup. You might just be helping through observations. We asked you about that. I'm going to go into more detail. Education and services, and donations. So education and services. Education can be just you raising awareness for yourself and you understanding what's going on. Volunteer stewardship with the DNR. So there are lots of ways that you can volunteer. So one thing I want you to do is everyone will please write down mi.gov/DNR. Okay, if you write that down, I don't have links to all the things we're going to talk about, but if you go to our website and you just were to search, there's a keyword search engine there, you're going to find any of these items. Okay, you can either go under things to do or you can Google search it on our website. Okay, so volunteer stewardship with the DNR. We're going to start with that. So we're always looking for dedicated individuals to help, and this is mostly connected with state parks. How many people have been into a state park before? All of you, pretty much. So great, got your rec passport, all that ways to help, so thank you. Well, they have about 20 parks where you can actually go and do stewardship work at the park. And they advertise this constantly. So if you don't get DNR news, please, you can again go to that main DNR website. There's a little spot where you can go and get signed up for DNR emails. And one of the things they send out almost monthly are these stewardship opportunities to go to a park. And when you're at the park, you might pull invasives, you might help with trash cleanup, you might become friends of a group there. There's really cool opportunities, especially if it's a park that's near you and it's really near and dear to your heart, then that's might be a really cool way to get involved. Okay, so that's Parks and Rec. Of course, these adopt a roads, adopt a parks, adopt a forest, and now there's also adopt a game area, which isn't even out here yet. It's so new for the wildlife division. But adopt a park or adopt a forest is similarly, it's groups of people, and they're always looking for you to come and help on adopted days. So there might be where you're seeing a lot of it's trash pickup. It's incredible the number of people who thought that our public lands were dumps. So I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go to some of the more natural-looking areas, and incredible where the amount of trash that our staff has to pick up every year, because people literally just go and dump it. And it's big couches and tires and all of that, and a lot of money has to get used to clean these up. So we really appreciate these kind of programs where you might work with the Forest Resources Division and help clean up the forest, or you might go up with the parks, and again, that's friends groups and others. And there's these cool cleanup days, so you're working with your community to help give back by doing these kind of events. Yeah, a lot of it's in the spring. So spring cleanups, it's going to be coming soon, so kind of be on the lookout for those.
Do you promise? Spring is coming.
Oh, wait, I have it in here, you wait. So one of the other things that you can do with the Wildlife Division is participate in these Michigan United Conservation Club's on-the-ground programs. The Wildlife Division partnered with Michigan United Conservation Clubs to do these on-the-ground projects. It was the same thing if you've been at Eric's session. We always look for ways to stretch funds. So we're like, our partners are great. They'll say, well, how can we help you? And we're like, well, what if we had this partnership where you brought people together to do some of the wildlife work on our land? So these people have all come together. Here's some upcoming events. That's, let's see, March 9th and March 30th, there's some events. But a lot of the work they do is they start building like brush piles. Nancy talked about that in her presentation. Some of the management that we do, it might be cutting for certain reasons, but it might be because we want to build brush piles for rabbits or rabbit hunting, etc. So there are all the projects we've done around the state. This program's been around since 2013. It's been really successful, and it's been really cool to watch organizations like Consumers Energy will do a day where they connect with the on-the-ground program, and because they want their employees to do some kind of volunteer hours, and they pay them to do that, and then they connect them through this program. So if your organization ever wanted to do something like that, it's cool. They all go out for the day, and they might do some cleanup, or they might build brush piles, and it's very different than other work they've done. So really cool. Should mention there's over 1,600 volunteers so far that have been through this. fun stuff. Spring's coming, right? It has to, like I can't take it. This is my very favorite bird, the red-winged blackbird, and I always feel like if you see it, that spring is here. And I have a coworker who's in a different location, and they told me they saw one already. So I'm here in Michigan, it was near Detroit. So I was like, okay, it's coming. So that's my randomness, my favorite bird. Everyone love the red-winged blackbird?
Yep.
Oh, good. All right. Another way we can help is we can do wildlife observations. So if you go, these are called eyes in the field. And there's a bunch of categories here. So it's diseased wildlife, mammals, fish, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. We have a lot of people who call the department because they've seen something, which is great. And most of the time, it's because someone's concerned. And they're like, we just saw this, or it's an injured animal, what do I do? Or I'm concerned, I see a sick-looking deer, what do I do? So this is what we have this for, because we want you to document as much information as we can and make sure we get it to the right people. So you'll put in like, where did you see it? Any kind of characteristics of the animal that are going on, labeling all that out. But I want to point out is the diseased wildlife one. So Nancy mentioned chronic wasting disease. If we have a little time, I'd like to talk about that a little bit at the end. It's something I work on all the time. It's a major issue for the department and for Wildlife Division. You guys know it's not far from Berry County, and if you're not familiar with it, I'd love to fill you in a little bit about it. Anyway, but here's where we would point you. If you called in and you said, I have a sick deer, will you please fill out an observation report here? So called Eyes in the Field. Mammals, some of it, we get a lot of cougar reports. So we ask you to come here. Most important thing is you ever see this is try to get physical evidence. So if you can get scat, if you can get, if there's tracks, cover those tracks, because our staff do go out when they have physical evidence. If it's just that you saw it running across the road, unfortunately we can't get staff out there to view that. We'll usually say, keep looking, come back, call us again. But if you definitely have tracks, cover those up or take really good photos with a ruler with it. And then we have an entire cougar team. So we have a cougar team of 5 biologists who have been specifically trained for this. They've gone, I don't remember what state it is, but they have a very extensive cougar training. So the whole team so many of the team have to agree before it can report what the animal was. So that may be something you weren't familiar with. My fun fact there. All right, so wildlife observations. Invasive species, Eric talked about this a little bit. The same kind of concept. If you think you see an invasive species, they want to hear about it. So they have an idea where that species could be throughout the state. This isn't a project that I work on, but I wanted to make sure you knew a great way for you to easily help. You're walking around on your land. A lot of people are getting super familiar with some of the familiar ones like glossy buckhorn, those ones. So, or some of the forest insects too. So if you have an opportunity to participate through this, that would be wonderful. This is another one, the Michigan Herp Atlas. Has anyone ever participated in this? Great, good. Another couple of you. So this is a partnership that we have with with a group. I'll give you a little data on this. So it's with the Herp Resource and Management LLC, and it was created to administer this database so that we can be really inclusive about herps across the landscape. It's been going on for 5 years, and there's been 23,000 plus herps that have been recorded. So thank you. So including 20 endangered species. So that's really cool. And we have over 470 threatened species that have been recorded, and there's been 2,600 people that have participated. So, and those are just cool pictures of those. So again, if you go to the DNR website, this is where you can get to those. And it's not a lot of work for you, right? When you participate, it's not simple. A lot of this is very simple work that you can do, and it's very helpful. Similarly with the next one, Michigan's Frog and Toad Survey. It's the longest running frog and toad survey in the nation. It's been going on for over 20 years. It's the same thing. You go out in the spring on 3 occasions and you just listen. Has anyone ever done this one? Yay, good. So it's great. I think it really does, it's really spring then, isn't it? When you hear them. So you just go out 3 times and you record that information and you're listening for calls. Okay, next random. Who doesn't love fawns, right? It's not going to be too long until fawns are dropping. Crazy, because spring is coming. I've already told you that. And this is my opportunity just to insert messaging. Is one of the big campaigns my team works on is to keep wildlife wild. And one of the major problems we have are people who pick up fawns and bring them home. So it's adorable, right? I mean, it's so sweet. And take a photo and walk away. So people are worried that that the mothers abandoned them more than anything. And it's always about that concerned citizen. No one's doing it because they don't want to hurt, they don't want to hurt wildlife. They're just misinformed. And what ends up happening, and we've had this multiple times in the state, lots of times, people bring them home, they get attached to the animal, and then there's a situation where this thing is going to grow up, right? And you don't know right then, is that a buck or a doe? You don't know. So that animal, especially if they brought home a buck, and a year in or so, that animal's going to want to do what? It's going to go want to mate, right? So there's situations where it's hurt people, and that's that difficult decision that we have to make, is to go now take an animal that someone just raised for a year and remove it from their home. And that's one of those situations people don't, when Eric was talking about, sometimes people go, that's the DNR. That's not the DNR we like to do. So that's why I wanted to just take this opportunity and say, if you share it with your friends, it'd be better for us to leave an animal to try to live on its own than take it in. There are rehabilitators. If you know that animal's, that mother's dead for sure, because they will leave an animal for over 8 hours. Did you guys know that? They'll leave their fawn for over 8 hours so that it can go and feed. It's usually hidden, and then it will come back and nurse it at night. But if you knew, the mom's, it was unfortunately killed on the road, there are wonderful rehabilitators, again, on our website that will help. So certainly call them. It gets a little bit more complicated in areas with chronic wasting disease, but I'd rather have them, and many of them will say, let's just give them a chance to live out in the wild. If it's 3 days old, it's different, but if they're a couple months old, 3 months old, we are hopeful that they can still live on their own. Okay? That's my sidekick. All right, here's something interesting you probably didn't know, a way that you could help the DNR. One of my staff is busy working and developing wildlife curriculum. Really excited about this. There's 4 different ones. If you're a teacher or you know teachers, please share. So these are teacher-led curriculum that's been developed in order to meet the standards within the classroom. So we're not just throwing you, hey, this is a fun thing for the day. This is saying, if you teach this will cover certain things you need to cover with your students. So Go Wild for Michigan's Wildlife is K through 5, and that's just all that basic wildlife are cool. They need habitat and water and food and all of that. And then A Year in the Life of a Michigan Black Bear is amazing. This is for middle schoolers, and this is where they get to watch GPS-collared black bears walk across the landscape. So they use that data. They can do it with math, and teachers get really creative because they use it in other ways. They might write essays about it. In this program, the Michigan Bear Hunters Association gives us money, and we ask the classroom to create a video of what they learned, and they'll give them a $500. Whoever wins gets $500 for the classroom. So it's really neat, and they've come up with some really cool things. They make skits up, and it's really amazing. Elk University again does some of that modeling work and or taking plots, because we have some elk collared as well. It's the high school curriculum, so obviously it's a lot more intense. And did everyone know there's elk in Michigan? Looks like, right, just up in the northern Atlanta area. And it was the 100th year of us reintroducing elk last year. So it's exciting. exciting times. We spent a whole year celebrating that. And then the other one is another middle school program, sorry, that's about wetlands and waterfowl. So if you do, please, you can go right online and learn more about these, but please share it with your friends. Another cool thing with the Go Wild for Michigan's Wildlife, I actually have a game designer on my staff, right? She is a wildlife biologist who is just that brilliant person who wants 3 master's degrees, because that's what she does. And she decided to go back to school and also learn about game design. And I mean like meaningful play, so actually designing games. The DNR is the first state agency across the nation to have an actual card game. So we just finished this. You can find this on it's on the website, again, like you're going to go to the DNR for all the stuff. It's called What in the Wild, and it's 5 different games. So if you have children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, you know a teacher, this connects to the curriculum, and we actually have teacher packs. So there's 5 packs. They can bring it into their classroom, and they learn about ways to connect habitats. So there's ones like Match It, Connect It, Slap It. So there's small games, and then there's a more complex one. And it's all about what animal needs what to survive. So it's really cool. It's a neat way for kids, touch it and see it and love it. So they appreciate wildlife. Anyway, I hope you'll check it out. And I was thinking, we had these 2 gentlemen here, our youngest. Why don't we just give the game to them? All right. We are really proud of this effort. I just talked about that. Match it, connect it, slap it, group it, and build it. So check it out, please. Oh, because this is cute, right? I don't know who got that photo, but it's really cute. This is my little break messaging. It's chronic wasting disease. Because of that, there was recently a mating and feeding ban put on the Lower Peninsula. Just went in effect January 31st. So if anyone wants to talk to me about that, please feel free. There are some handouts about bird feeding and how to do that so you can keep deer healthy. So that's just kind of my plug. Just don't forget about that. You do not have, it's fine, feed your birds. Everyone loves to watch wildlife, and a lot of people do. They love to watch their squirrels, etc. We just want to do it in a manner that's going to keep chronic wasting disease not spread across the landscape, okay? So there is a handout about feeding birds and how to keep deer out of and kind of enclosing that. But feel free to come and talk to me about it. All right, so we talked a little bit about you can do observations, you can do cleanups. Sometimes it's just getting involved and understanding knowing some of the initiatives that are out there. And this is what I just wanted to talk about. My Birds is an initiative that the DNR started, that we have many partners with. It was the DNR and Audubon Great Lakes. First time we've come together and we hired an individual to connect all those bird watchers, because there's a lot of you all love bird watching, and hunters. Because everyone loves to use public land, and we want to make sure everyone understands who's there, and they appreciate each other for why they're there. So that's why we wanted to develop this, is to build those relationships between these really important groups. You can follow My Birds on Facebook. If you have Facebook, they have the best postings every single day, especially if you love photos of birds and, fun stuff. So if you go just it's My Birds, it's pretty easy to find out on Facebook, but I highly encourage you, and many people are partners in this, from Michigan Audubon to National Wild Turkey Federation to the Detroit Zoo it's a great group that's come together to form this steering committee for these efforts. And this is one of the ones I wanted to stop and just talk a little bit about funding. So one of the pieces of this is because are most people familiar with funding of the department? I wanted to talk about that just for a minute. So I am not as familiar with the whole department, but I'm going to talk specifically about Wildlife Division. So we have a $45 million budget, and $5 million of that is from general tax fund. Okay, so your general taxes come in, about $5 million, just over that, comes to the Wildlife Division. $40 million of it is from other sources. And most of it is through what Nancy mentioned, Pittman Robertson, and the Game and Fish Fund. So hunters pay for almost all the work that we do based on these funding sources. So I just think it's important people know that. That's why Michigan. Okay, thanks. So the MyBirds Corp, when that group was formed was because there were so many wildlife enthusiasts who were saying, I would love to pay. I want to be part of that process. I'm not wanting just hunters to pay for this. We all want to help pay for public land. How can you help us? So this group is talking about that so that people can feel invested into everyone who travels on public lands. You might love doing morel hunting, but you just go out and do that. So we're trying to figure out mechanisms because it's so restrictive. It's incredible the way that our money is laid out. We can only spend money in certain ways because of a certain pot. So we're trying to find ways to be more creative so that everybody can bring in and want to feel invested in land.
How do you do input for that kind of thing?
I'm sorry?
How do you do that kind of input? You know, citizen opinions and so on like that for you to decide?
Well, we don't decide, but the legislature are the ones who set our budget. So what we do is individuals can talk to them about other ways. There's this really cool thing called Recovering America's Recovering America's Wildlife Act. And it was introduced and it didn't go anywhere. It's at the federal level. And this is these senators representative senators across the nation want to find a more diverse funding source for us. So it isn't just these certain dollars coming in. If that passed, it looks like it's going to get reintroduced again because it kind of fizzled out after the transition of the last election. So if that was to pass, we would have about $30 million coming to Michigan to help all wildlife. So it's incredible. So if you hear about it, it's another opportunity to support this diverse funding. It's just getting through the whole kind of kickoff and of being introduced. So it's something to follow. And there is something called the Non-Game Wildlife Fund. I think I've got it in here a little later, but that's a way where you can just donate. And I'll talk later, but so please check out that MyBirds. So then we kind of get into when you can come to a public meeting. Has anybody ever come to a public meeting for the DNR? Handful of you. Good, thank you. So I want to back up and I'll kind of rush through because I want you to have some questions. The DNR Wildlife Division created a strategic plan in 2009. And when we did that, we went out and talked to hundreds of people and lots of our stakeholders to say, what should we do for the next 5 years and then 10 years? And one of the things they said is you lack communications, you lack transparency, and we want to hear the decisions as they're being made. So that is why my unit was formed. So my unit is called the Public Outreach and Engagement Unit. I'm like the strategic or stakeholder engagement director for the Wildlife Division. It's my job to come up with creative and different ways to try to get input from the public. So I'm going to talk about forest compartment reviews. This is not within the Wildlife Division, but forest compartment reviews is where they are going to do timber treatments within a certain area. Okay, so they're called compartments. So they might, if you have public land down here near you, it's more common because state forest is northern up here, but down here you have more of the state game area, public land that Wildlife Division manages. But same idea is they're going to do some kind of timber cutting, and then you go and you have an opportunity to come and review that and give public comment. So many of these, you'll get like 3 or 4 people. So I encourage you, again, that's why mi.gov/DNR, look for these meetings. If you have this kind of thing near you, we really want to hear from you. So I'm not sure, I think we're working to find better ways. We're doing more surveys or giving you opportunities on the web for people who just want that quick and easy. But if you want to be involved, please come to these meetings. It's really important, and we get really low turnout.
Does public input have weight?
Absolutely. Absolutely it does.
Where are they announced?
So they're on our website. So a lot of times they come out in a press release for sure. So if you're not on emails from the DNR, and we send it to the media, but I don't know how many people see those anymore, it's better to just go on the website. It says things to do, and then events going on, or ways to get involved, or there's a thing. You could say compartment reviews, and you'll get used to where those are on the website, okay? So we really want you to come and to, participate in the process. That's what the Natural Resources Commission for the Wildlife Division is. So they are the body that was appointed by the governor, and it's the people who decide the method and manner of take for wildlife management. Most of this is related to hunting regulations. And when you ask if people come, we have people, they meet monthly. It's usually in Lansing, but there's a few times a year where it's in other locations. And there's public comment period here. So the Wildlife Division is responsible for going 1 month and providing a recommendation to the commission. So last month we did waterfowl recommendations to them. So this coming month in March, they will take action on it. So there's a 30-day window at least of when they have received some information and the public has received it, and you could, excuse me, and then they can comment before they can make a decision. So there has to be at least a 30-day window. I know they're going to take at least 60 days this year for deer eggs. So again, not a huge turnout, a lot of the same people. So I encourage you, if you ever have an opportunity, to come and even to see the process. It's really interesting. They're all volunteers in a sense. They get appointed, right? They don't make money from doing this. So, next message. Everyone know what these are? Coyote pups. So we get a lot of coyote calls, especially from people in urban areas. Coyotes are in every county in Michigan, and it is more than, most of the calls we get are because people are concerned that they have coyotes in their area. It is like, what do I do with my kids? What do I do with my pets? And so this is just my message of, there's coyotes everywhere. If you have a tiny pet and you're concerned, don't leave them out on a leash too long. But if you ever see one, you can just bang. They are very skittish. They don't want to hang around with you. If you have one that's coming up on your back porch, call us, because that could be a problem, okay? They usually do not want to be near you. So even though you might see them off in the way, it's one of those for me. Oh, I just saw a coyote, so I just will, one of the things we're doing is, if you had a chance to look at any of our brochures, we have this called Coyote Smart. Be smart, learn to be smarter than a coyote. It's the same thing with bears, etc. So we have a bunch of publications, and we're just really working with these urban areas so that they understand really what the threats are when it comes to coyotes. So, but they're cute. All right, did people know we have a license plate? So it was the loon. Everyone remember the loon license plate? I had that, and now I have an elk. But we made a decision to change this because it was the 100th year of the elk last year. And it was a way for us to raise more money. All the money that goes to this license plate goes to the non-game fund. And we wanted to take a chance and grab people who were not non-game enthusiasts, have them spend some money and go into the non-game fund. So that's why we did it. We had people who didn't really, they were a little concerned about losing the loon. We had the loon for a long time, and we had noticed that we were losing money. There wasn't as many people now that were getting enthused about buying the loon plate, so we thought it was time to change up. It's only going to be here for a little while, and then what we're going to probably do is look to all of you to tell us what would you like next. When you buy a plate like this, it's $35 initially. I think it's $25 goes to us, and then every year you have to pay another $10, and so that goes to us as well. And that's, again, that goes to all wildlife, all the non-game wildlife. So it's your snakes, it's your butterflies, any of that work, birds, that comes through there. So please, I encourage you to purchase. So this is my last kind of, why is it important to volunteer and get involved? Because if not you, then who? So we really love all the calls that we get. My team mans the phone down in Lansing, the headquarters. It is 284-WILD, so 517-284-WILD. Call us anytime. If you don't understand something, why we're doing something, we'll get you to the right person. We want you to feel comfortable with what we're working on and what we're doing, and that's really why my team was formed, so.
Is that an 800 number?
Oh, yeah, it's no, I don't think it is, 517.
Okay, what-
Sorry.
it's 517.
517-284-WILD. Thank you. Okay, I think there's 10 minutes for questions, if that's all right. Thank you. Any questions? Great, certainly. Sorry.
The Natural Resource Commission, what is the purpose, or what was the purpose of that to be something to step in front of the DNR's decisions on things? It's because it doesn't look like they're scientists necessarily.
Right, so when they're appointed.
Can
Yeah.
everybody hear the question?
Let me repeat, that's right,
Just
let me
repeat.
repeat the
Thank
questions.
you.
She asked why the purpose of the Natural Resources Commission doesn't look like they're scientists per se. So my understanding, this is just going to be my perspective. There was, back in 1996-7, there was some legislation that went through related to that sound scientific management and having things that went through this Natural Resources Commission. And that was when, so we're going to have a board review things, and then before they're implemented. So the DNR wasn't just implementing decisions. So are they scientists? They do a lot of, from my perspective, I work with them a lot. They do their due diligence. They ask a lot of questions. It's our responsibility to bring them the science to why we're making a recommendation. So the DNR has to bring the background for why a decision that we're wanting to make as a recommendation. They do ask us, though, that they're interested in something. They'll ask us to find more information out on something that maybe we weren't thinking about yet. Does that make sense? So, I mean, there's lawyers on the team, yeah, it's all across the board, but very, very invested and very interested. They ask a lot of questions. Yes. Did you have a question?
Sort of, yeah, when you get into the diverse funding bills and that sort of thing, what kind of news do they give to them? Or who's going to be most likely to propose
Well,
that?
if you follow the Appropriations Committee, the Natural Resources, there's a Natural Resource Committee, subcommittees, and there's appropriation one. Those are probably the best ones to follow. And that'll help to see what kind of movement might be going on. You know, the state agency isn't allowed to lobby for any funding.
Right.
Did I mention that $5 million was almost completely for chronic wasting disease and TB? So that $5 million that we get for taxes, almost 100% of it has to be used for wildlife disease. So, hi Nancy.
Dear.
Kelly, question. I've been a real strong proponent of changing the way Pittman Robinson is funded. But what I'm concerned with, or maybe we can address this, if we can come up with more money than $30 million, will non-consumptive users have a bigger voice in management? Right now, we have no representation on the NRC.
Yeah, I think you will see that, Nancy. I really feel that when we talk within this MyBirds group about those issues, I feel like that is going to give a voice to some people who have felt like we have made management decisions based on these restricted funds, because that's the money that we have. So that's when we're making a management decision down here in the state game area, what funding can we use? I think you would.
But it's not just funding of it either. It's on everything, almost every committee that is, everything is being focused on the hunter and not the non-consumptive.
I think it's a great point. And I think that you could see that, and I think that if you keep stating that, and I think with MyBirds, it's a start to see we need to stretch beyond the hunting groups. And that's for the future of our,
Hunting is going down, the other is going up, and yet it's still going away.
yes.
I work at Michigan State University.
Speak up just a little bit.
Because we
Everybody
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm
I do research at Michigan State University and at the Fisheries and Wildlife Department, and we do a lot of collaborations with the DNR but almost all of our research is for hunting and fishing specifically because that's where the research dollars are coming in. So I just wanted to like follow up and talk, and like it's not just that, it's like literally the information that we're getting is only going to this research group as well in terms of research.
So we are looking for those other partners, and there is funds that come up. There are other restricted funds. So like SWIG, have you ever heard of SWIG? Like state wildlife grants. Those help us do, those are mostly federal funds that come in. Those help us do other projects. But if the money isn't there, right, that kind of limits. Yes, I'll try to do a better job. Oh, you're gonna, yes.
I'm going back to funding again, Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's not only the federal funding, but also state funding, but getting back to numbers and representation, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service does a survey every 5 years. And for the past 2 surveys, the last one was done in 2016.
Right.
And the people who spend the most money towards preserving conservation, involvement with wildlife and outdoor activity is non-consumptive users, people who don't shoot, kill, trap, poison, run over wildlife. It's hunters, everybody's like, oh, it's the hunters that fund this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no, non-consumptive users of wildlife spend more money, spend more time, travel further distances, spend more time in the outdoors. And so we are at the top as far as numbers and members and money spent. And then it's not hunters that are next, it's fishing and anglers and fishing supplies. And they're second, and hunting is at the bottom. So for the 3 top users of wildlife and outdoor recreation, non-consumptive users are the ones that spend the most, and hunters are at the bottom. And hunting keeps going down. Number of hunters, numbers of days in the field, numbers of
You're talking
money
about
spent.
economic impact.
Well, and then, going back to the Natural Resources Commission, you can go, if you've not been to one of these meetings, please go. Please go and see, especially if the topic is something like, oh, 24-hour coyote hunting, or predator killing contests, which the DNR stays out of. But yeah, there's areas where you can go out and kill coyotes, bobcats, and win prizes if you get the biggest, the ugliest, the most. So, or the smallest, it doesn't matter. And nobody blinks an eye at these, the DNR stays out of that. They don't say, they don't promote, I will also say, but they also don't do anything to stop it either. So what good is that?
That we could probably continue, I just want to.
Okay, so why are you're not getting to the nitty gritty of what the DNR does and the Natural Resources Commission, and you're right, there aren't any researchers or scientists or biologists on the committee.
So I don't disagree that you have a large economic impact from others, and that's exactly why Blackbird has been created. That's all, I'll just stop at this point. Thanks. And I do highly encourage people to go to commission meetings.
Are there any other questions related to other things?
Great, thanks.
So my area of expertise is more trash and waste and recycling. Oh, hi. I'm Sarah Archer. I'm the recycling coordinator for Berry County. So my area of expertise is more waste and recycling. And so from my experience, when I see and know of all these cleanups that are going on in our forest lands and see the illegal dumping that's going on, most of the time that is happening because local ordinances don't prohibit that, and that there's a lack of prosecution on behalf of those that are doing the dumping. So again, everybody kind of wonders why is this happening, and some of this can simply be corrected through local ordinances and zoning and enforcement. And then it would really, we'd have a need, I would hope, at some point in time to have these cleanups of our beautiful forest lands and our lakes and our streams and our rivers and our trails and all those places we love and enjoy. So
Yeah.
just a comment.
Thank you so much. And I think that people see the Adopt a Road program. It's so obvious, right? I mean, you've seen it out forever, and you see people out picking up trash. They don't know about the other piece, because if you don't go in these areas, you won't notice. But when you see your first sofa out on a game area, it's pretty horrible. Or your refrigerator, or that they, so it's sad.
Mattresses.
Yes, exactly.
Mattresses are a big thing.
Okay, so I'm
Thank
going to
you
say
so much.
thank you to Kelly